Today we're going to mount this Starlink, the new high-performance Starlink in motion dishy and power supply in the roamer, and then we're going to use our MoFi router that we currently have set up with our cellular system. And there's a variety of different ways that people have mounted these to their RV roofs. I'm going to do it a little differently than what I've seen so far, and we're going to use these to do it. And so the plan is to take this threaded insert. I was originally going to get a stainless, but those weren't readily available, and I think this brass will do just fine. It won't corrode. So we're going to take this, and we're going to pot it into a hole in the roof, and then we're going to use this to secure the wedge mount in it, and that'll allow us to remove this, and we have some ways that we're going to lock this in that we'll show you. So we're going to measure the diameter of this threaded insert so we know how big to make our hole, and that's looking like 452. So if we drill a 1/2 inch hole, which would be there, then we've got a little bit of clearance there, and then we're going to clear out underneath to make this pocketed hole.
Got our wedge bracket positioned on the roof and in the spot that we want to mount it. So now we're going to use transfer punch, and we're just going to make a little pinprick on the roof where we want this. It's the most accurate way of getting the center on here. Alright, so now we've got our 4 marks down so it wouldn't move, like so. Our pilot holes now. I don't know if you can tell or not, but this is why we are going to go ahead and do a pocket, an undercut pocket here, because this balsa is just so light, it's not going to hold any thread at all. So we've got to have a nice big plug of epoxy in there that's got the threaded insert threads embedded in it, and then the plug seated behind this nice thick fiberglass that's on the top to hold everything in place. I'm going to put a notch here and a notch here, and then when I fill this hole with epoxy and wet set my threaded insert, it'll not only lock it in the vertical direction, but also in the rotational direction. So that way I'll have a nice epoxy plug in there that can't turn and can't pull out, and that will screw the mount down to. Great, so I just made a little tool here. Just bent over and sacrificed one of my small slot screwdrivers, and now I can just go in here and chip away nicely at this and make my pocket. So maybe this part of it will go a little faster now. Oh, it looks like everything is going to work as planned with drilling it and pocketing it, so I'm going to finish off these next 3. Now we've got our 4 1/2 inch holes, and we're going to use our little tool here to pocket out the other 3, and then we'll be on to wet setting our threaded inserts with epoxy. So I cut from the top layer of fiberglass here down through the balsa to the bottom layer of fiberglass, and I didn't drill all the way there. I just scratched it out once I started pocketing the hole. About a 1/4 inch undercut. So we've got a Dremel tool here that we're going to use to make these little pockets, keyways.
On this side, this is all stuff I don't want to stick to the epoxy. This is all the stuff that I want to stick to the epoxy. So I've got silicone grease here, and we're going to put that on all this stuff that we don't want to stick, and we got to make real sure that we don't get any of it on this that we do want to stick. This is what I'm using, JB Weld Marine Weld 2-part. Sets up in 5 minutes, cures in an hour.
So the plan, and it's a syringe type, so the plan is we'll put it in these holes, give it a good mix with our mixer here, then take this with these all inserted into it and pop it in there and let it sit. I'm using this Allen key so I don't get it all over my other fingers. So I'm just going to go and dip it in here and grease all the way around it. All right, we've got all those lubed up. So we've got 4 screws lubed up. We've got 4 inserts and other washers that we want to stick that are not lubed up. All right, so now we don't want this plate to stick to the roof either. We want to be able to remove everything except for the inserts. So we're going to go and put some grease around here. And my guess is I'm not going to be very good at judging just how much epoxy to put in these holes. So it's going to overfill. And I want to make sure that I don't glue this thing down to the roof. Even though, who knows if I'll ever take it off, but I want to be able to take it off. That's the whole purpose for putting these inserts in there, is to be able to take it off. And at a later date, if I want to, Starlink changes, I want to mount something different on here, I've got 4 inserts. I can use transfer plates and mount anything I want to this part of the roof once I have these 4 threaded inserts in here with /20s. So it's a very flexible mounting system versus committing to gluing this whole thing to the roof and not being able to change it later. I don't like that. All right, so we've got all 4 greased up, so nothing's going to stick to that. So now we've got our screw up through there with the washer that we want to not stick on the other side. Now this is the washer we want to stick. So, all right, now we're going to take and put the insert here, side with the slot in it up here, and we have to make sure that we do not get any grease on the outside of this thread. We want it on the inside, but we don't want it on the outside. Okay, so there's that one. We'll just do that to all of these. All right, here we go. We're going to fill all of these up. Not all the way, but quite a ways with this epoxy. And then we're going to stir it up. Okay. And now we wait.
All right, it's the next morning. And we'll pull those screws out and see how we did.
All right, well, that was loose, was loose. Nice. Okay, well, looks like the screws should come out. All right, now let's see if the bracket is free. Yeah, looks good, nice. There we go. Bracket's out. And you can see, or maybe you can see, but we've still got, yeah, you can sort of see, we've got our silicone grease on there that kept us from sticking to the roof. Got a little bit of excess around here, but better overfilled than underfilled. Looks pretty good. They're all nicely filled all the way around. Yep. There we go. So now we've got 4 holes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and mount this bracket down, getting ready to put the dishing on it. And I'm going to go ahead and put some silicone adhesive on the threads of these just to kind of seal them up and keep water from sitting down in there, even though I'm completely sealed from the composite core. I'll put that in there, and I've got a silicone rubber gasket on there just to keep a little bit of tension on the bolts so nothing comes loose when we're bumping down the road. Put a little bit of this on each one of these, thread them in. Alright, so this is the back of our dish. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this thread marker that they provide on here. So these are just the guides that locate the dish on the bracket, and it's really the screws on the other side that hold it and secure it down. Alright, now we're going to mount our dish onto the wedge bracket here. Front part with the shoulder screws is going to go into these 2 slots right here, and then we'll secure it with the screws in the back here. go. And we'll do the same thing with our Loctite. Loctite these screws. All right, here we go. We are mounted. Now on to hooking up our power supply. We'll run wires out this end.
So this is what it looks like, the new InMotion Starlink satellite dish. We've got it back here on the driver's side rear corner, right next to the bathroom vent, tucked in and around the solar panels. So we've got plenty of room to walk around it, and then we'll run the wires out here underneath the solar panel, and then over here where I've got the other antenna wires from the dual Yagi antennas, and got my omnidirectional cellular antenna in there. So this is what it looks like from the rear. You can see it's got a slight tilt to the rear, a little more aerodynamic than if it was mounted the other way, and I think that also helps it melt the snow off, and maybe has something to do with its satellite reception. Not real sure there. This is what it looks like from the passenger side. So you can see kind of where it's positioned relative to the panels and relative to the rear and the roof vent.